Hi, this is OsoX for ZeroZeroXVids.com, on YouTube at ZeroZeroX, and on Instagram at Quantic Films. On today's video, we'll be building the SENTRY 3 computer, part of the Dream Computer 3.0 series of videos on YouTube. There's a playlist dedicated to this and this alone. We have 3 unboxings, which are the previous videos to this, and today we'll show you the SENTRY 3 computer in this 2-part video. This is the first part 1. We will show you where we got the parts, like this, one of the visits we have to our local Micro Center store, where we checked the NVIDIA GeForce RTX video cards, as well as the AMD Ryzen 2nd generation processors, the cases, the RGB LED fans, the power supplies by power spec, as well as monitors. Like I said before, this SENTRY 3 computer build video, it's a 2-part video. This is the first part 1. We will show you all the parts that we got for the build, as well as installing a few of them onto the motherboard, and then putting the motherboard on the case will be for part 2, as well as finishing the build and show you the final results, show you the SENTRY 3 computer and the Dream Computer 3.0 computer setup featuring the SENTRY 3 computer. We have parts that are oriented via media production. So the AMD Ryzen 2600X processor has 6 cores and 12 threads. That's ideal for Cubase, as also as our video editing software. The 12 threads are good for gaming, as well as the GeForce RTX 2060 Super will help us with the development of our video game Quantic Dreams Chapter 4. Now here are the parts that we're using for the SENTRY 3 computer. Some of these parts we unboxed already on previous videos. To check those out, check the Dream Computer 3.0 section at the YouTube channel, or rather the Dream Computer 3.0 playlist, where we unbox the Aorus AIC RGB 512GB SSD, that's a PCIe part, as well as the MF120 GamerStorm Intelligent RGB fans. We also unboxed the GeForce RTX 2060 Super Founders Edition by NVIDIA. Okay, and here are all the main parts. All the parts for the Dream Computer, the SENTRY 3 main computer. We start with the case. This is a Roswell Prism S light in white. It is a mid-ATX case. Here is the power spec by Micro Center. The power spec 650 watts, 80 plus gold, semi-modular power supply. This is the motherboard, the B450 Aorus Elite by Gigabyte, that supports all AMD AM4 processors. We have the video card, that is the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 Super, the new GPUs by NVIDIA. This is the Founders Edition, made by NVIDIA themselves. Now the core. At the core we have the AMD processor, the AMD Ryzen 5, the 2600X 8 cores, 16 threads CPU. For storage we have the crucial M.2 P1 NVMe 3D technology SSD with a capacity of 1 terabyte. Very fast and practical. As well as for storage is the crucial P1. For memory we have the G.Skill Flare X 16 GB RAM memory with dual channel and a 3200 MHz, which is perfect for an AMD build. It will make use of all that speed and the dual channel configuration. We have the Deepcool's RF120M 5 RGB fan kit from Deepcool, and this is not a necessary part, but it's only helpful with the cable management. This is a hub for the RGB cables to install it to the motherboard. Now, another part we got for this build, and this is an optional part, is the GamerStore MF120 3-fan kit by GamerStore, made by Deepcool. This is another optional part, the Asus AC56, the 802.11ac PCIe Wi-Fi adapter, one Wi-Fi antenna, and this is another optional, the Aorus RGB AIC NVMe 512GB SSD. That's a PCIe Direct SSD by Aorus. Okay, so let's take all the optional parts and show you what they are. Again, the Asus RGB SSD PCIe, the AIC that goes to the motherboard, the AC560 Asus Wi-Fi PCIe card, and the GamerStore MF120 3 RGB fan kit. These are the optional parts. Now, this build without these optional parts is a sub $1,000 build. So it's 1K build. It's a $1,000 build. You can build this under $1,000. Let's take a closer look at the case. Again, this is the Roswell Prism S Lite build. What Roswell is a brand made by Newegg.com, and I was surprised by the quality and the practicality of this case. It's excellent for cable management. It has a modern design. It has the tempered glass cover. Most of the screws don't come out, they stay in place, and then they leave you fasten the parts, like the cover in the front, the cover in the back, the PCIe cover, the SSD cover. This is very practical. This part here is to hold, or to help you hold the video card. If it's longer than or heavier than expected, it will help you keep it in place. And again, you can remove this part. You have our own tools. I'm not using an anti-static band right now, but I recommend using it. I didn't have any issues this time, but I'd rather not use it. We're gonna take out the fans that come with the case already. We'll take those out and install RGB fans instead, provided by Deepcool and GamerStore. Let's take it down this exhaust fan first. I will move to the fan on the bottom, remove the filter, the dust filter, and go from there. So let's take out all 4 screws. I recommend using one of these magnetic plates to keep your screws away from the rest of the build, so you can organize yourself better. Now we see the intake dust filter on the Roswell case. Take that out. I'm gonna speed up the process and start taking out this fan, these 2 fans, and then install all the other Deepcool RGB fans. The cover in the back, let me show you a pattern it has. It has a pattern on the side that's for the exhaust fans. Here's a PCI cover for the PCIe slots, and in the back, like I was saying, this pattern here is an exhaust fan or radiator exhaust fan placeholder, where you'll be cooling down the processor or taking air out of the case. They have some SSD holders in place right now, but you can take those out for airflow. Up here we have an SSD, or no, rather an HDD enclosure where we have the accessories for the Roswell case. We have things like screws, we have holders, we have this Velcro for organizing the cable or for cable management, as well as zip ties, and a couple of stickers for the case. All the accessories we need. That HDD enclosure will take out and install a RGB fan instead. This RGB fan will get air to the power supply and the upper part of the case. So let's take out the screw. Again, it doesn't come out completely, stays with the enclosure, but we can screw it into the case any moment we want. It's very practical, very thoughtful of Newegg and Roscoe to do such a thing. After we do that, we'll install all the deep cool RGB LED fans. They're 120 millimeters. Let's do that real quick. And here are the RF120M RGB fans. Let's get them open. Let's make an unboxing of them first. We just took the SSD motherboard holders. Case holders, because we're gonna put exhaust fans there instead, and we're gonna need the space for airflow. This is the accessories for the MF120M by Deepcool. We have cables. We have the hubs that will go to the motherboard. These hubs hold 4 fans at a time. They're great for cable management, for organizing your cables. The manual quick start guide. And then we have here the 5 RF120Ms. Let's take them out. They're very high quality. They have rubber mounts or rubber pads on each corner of the fans, on the inside, on the outside, for exhaust or intake. Let's install them real quick, all 5 of them, including the one on top of the HDD enclosure. And here's the instructions showing us the hub with the 4 connections. Install one more in the front. We can take out the prisms front. It's plastic, you can take it out. It has a very triangular, looks like mountains, like dunes. Very, very nice to look at. There we have the hubs that go to the motherboard. They're very useful for cable management. And also it has the fan connector and the LED RGB connectors, and they're all modular in the way that you can connect one fan to the next, to the next, to the next, and then only one cable goes to the motherboard, as well as its hub. You can connect all 4 to one, and then one to the second port. And here are the Gamer Storm RGB LED fans, the intelligent Wi-Fi fans. We unboxed these already, so we're gonna take them out. They're frameless, which means they don't have that circular plastic around them. They're made of metal. They have their own control, their Wi-Fi controller that has Velcro and can be attached, or it can be installed anywhere in your fan, and it has its own RGB light to it. Let's do that real quick. Let's install these Gamer Storm fans, and now we're going to install the controller, the Wi-Fi controller that has Velcro and this 2-sided tape, so we can take it out and then stick it with the Velcro again, whatever we desire. This will go anywhere in the case. You put it closer to the motherboard, closer to the headers, whatever you want. These are the Gamerstone intelligent Wi-Fi fans that are connected via micro USB, and they have their own proprietary connection on the other side back to the Wi-Fi controller that you see there on the right, on the bottom right. Cable management, it's pretty good, and the case helps a lot with that. Now let's unbox the PowerSpec 80 Plus Gold modular power supply. By modular, I mean already have two cables that we cannot, it's not modular in that sense, there's two cables we cannot take out or put in. Those are the power connections to the motherboard that every computer needs, so we don't need to take those apart. Those come in and we're going to use both connections. The actual modular cables that we're going to use is one PCIe connection to the graphics card, to the GTX, to the RTX, the 2060 Super, and only one SATA power connection to the fans, to the gamer store fans, because they need power that comes directly from the power supply. Let's unbox this. Let's take the plastic first. And PowerSpec is a brand made by Micro Center. It's their own brand and they're pretty good quality. I can't complain about these power supplies. And it becomes more affordable once you get them semi-modular with the cables that you really need to use already, and you don't need them to be modular. The cable management comes easier with this power supply because we only use two other cables, and the rest we just store and we don't use because we don't have extra cables to worry about. It has the manual, it has a warranty information, some cables, some PCIe cables. We only need one of these. It has two with two ends each. We have SATA connections, we have some extra power cables that we're not gonna use. It has fan cables, SATA-E, and these are the cables that come attached to the power supply, and both of those we need. Let's take out the PowerSpec 650 watt semi-modular 80 plus gold power supply that we got at Micro Center. As you can see, it's pretty clean. Screws, nothing more in the box. And now let's proceed to install such a power supply. Now the power supply will not go on the bottom of the case, but rather on the top, and it has its own kind of cradle to hold with an opening for the fan, the exhaust fan of the power supply. There on the left, that's where we put one of the RGB fans to help with airflow and cool down the power supply a little more, since we don't have a hard disk drive, an HDD, but rather we have two SSDs or one SSD depending on what you want on this build. But it will send air up there to cool the component, or the only component up there, that's the power supply. And the power supply itself has an exhaust fan that will go down, and it will be pushed out of the case by one of the gamer store fans near the power supply cooling solution. Now we're taking out the PCIe cables. We're going to use one of these for the RTX GeForce video card. Later on we'll have to connect another power cable for the gamer storm fans as well. Once we do this, we're ready to connect or to install the power supply into the case up there on the upper part of the case. Let's tighten those screws with a screwdriver, preferably magnetic, so it's snagging there. Now it's time to unbox the Aorus B450 Elite by Gigabyte. It has their own RGB standard, so it has RGB sync connectivity. Socket is the AM4, it's built for Ryzen processors, the AM4 Plus slot. Let's take it out of the box real quick, but let's see in the back all the features. It has no lag, just frag. It has the Ethernet connection as well. It has a video connection, HDMI output only if you have one of those processors that has a video solution as well. But in this case, we'll be getting our video out of the NVIDIA GeForce RTX. Let's take out the static back out, and let's get the motherboard out of it real quick. And here it is, the Aorus B450 Elite. The Aorus logo, it has some RGB components to it. Let's take out this protective plastic layer, and remember always to take out these protective films, because especially if they're on top of heat sinks or heat dissipators, because they will heat up and melt and ruin your system. So be sure that you're taking out all of them. If you see shiny parts, it's probably the protective film in there protecting them as well. This motherboard is compatible with Gigabyte's own RGB standard, and it has some parts that light up. On the side you can see the heat dissipators, the bridge, their chip bridge. You can see the 12 volts connections, the power connection. On the other side there's the other power connection for the motherboard, the M.2 heatsink. Right there, the M.2 heatsink is longer than usual, but we'll take it apart as well. Take out the screw, and we have the P1 to install in there. So let's put this motherboard on top of the box, not the static bag, but the box, to install more components on top of it. We'll be sure to show you how to use that heatsink for the M.2 SSD drive. Now on the back we see the I/O without an I/O shell. It has an incorporated I/O shell. You don't need to install another one. It has up to 5 USB 3.0 connections. It has 4 here, but it has a USB header as well. And the USB header has 2 USB connections that will go to the case. It has a bunch of USB 2.0 connections. In the back you can see the plate that will hold the cooling solution for the AMD 5, the 2600X chip. Like I said before, let's put the motherboard on top of the box once we take out everything that is to take out about this motherboard. Let's see what else is in the box real quick. We see the manual, the quick guide that will show us where to connect the RAM, the drivers, and the firmware for the motherboard by Aorus on a CD. Let's see what else is in the box. And the manual and some cables and the screws. These screws will help us attach it to the case, as well as connect the M.2 SSD storage. These cables we won't need at all. These are for peripherals that we're not using, that are to connect at the case, but we're connecting the M.2 and the PCIe Aorus SSD directly to the motherboard. It has a sticker, Aorus sticker, always good to have. And that's pretty much it. Let's get started, shall we? Let's start installing our parts. Now let's choose the box. And the first thing we want to install so it doesn't get in the way later on is the M.2 drive, the SSD, the 1 terabyte Crucial P1. And for that we need to find the M.2 connection on the motherboard itself, and it's right here under this heatsink, this black heatsink. We take out the screw real quick, and what we'll notice is this heatsink has more space than it's needed, but it's good. It's going to help us cool down the M.2 drive, especially under heavy usage. So let's take out the screw. Oh, okay, it comes out. It has a film on top of it. We take out the film, and inside it has a cooling solution, a sticky cooling solution, similar to what you have on heatsinks that go in top of a CPU or a computer processor like AMD or Intel. And now we can see the M.2 connection there. We're going to install the P1 1000 gigabytes or 1 terabyte SSD, the NVMe 3D with that technology in there. Let's unbox then the Crucial P1, shall we? Now this is one of the core components of this build. It will keep it sub 1K, under $1,000. It's 1 terabyte of storage SSD provided by Crucial. The solid state drive doesn't always need cooling. Some people just install it alone, but this motherboard provides us with a heatsink and we intend to use it. Let's get it off, and we have a manual. I think it's more like it tells us to go online for instructions, but it has the warranty information, and it's good to know, and it's good to buy it from the store as well. Now let's get the M.2 drive out of this plastic. And there it is. It has a sticker on top of those chips. We're gonna need to remove that sticker in order to use the cooling solution that the motherboard provides. This one only has one gap on the M.2 connection. That means it's faster. That's the fastest standard for M.2. There's another one with two gaps. That's also fast, but it's not as fast as this. Let's take the sticker out. This is the branding from Crucial. It's not doing anything for us right now. And this is the upside. This face is looking up. The one gap on the right, bottom right, that's the connection to the motherboard, the M.2 connection, and that's how the heatsink will go. The mid circle, the half moon circle on the left middle side, that's for a screw to go in there and hold the M.2 in place while it's connected to the motherboard, to keep it connected to the motherboard. So what we're gonna do is we need to connect it and then pull it down and fasten it with a screw on that left side, and the connection goes on the right side. You want to keep one screw, a flat screw, a screw that's not sticking out too much, so you can pull down later or stick the heatsink on top of it. So it will cover the chips, we cool them down, and it will cool down the screw itself, or it will stick to the cooling solution in such a way that it doesn't bother or doesn't intervene between the cooling of the M.2 drive. So we added a screw in the middle. That screw has the space for another screw. That's the M.2 connection. Pull it down, and now we can hold the M.2 drive in place with a flat screw, preferably not too big, to keep it in place there. It has a holder under it that we installed already, so it's a screw on top of a screw. It has a spring. It springs a little bit. It has like a. We're gonna connect them together right now. Like so. We push it down and then we hold it in place with a screw. These two screws should be provided by the motherboard manufacturer. Once it's flat, we can position the heatsink on top of it. It will help us both protect the SSD, the M.2 drive, and keep it cool. Push down, once it's down, and stick into the chips on the M.2 drive. We screw it together. We hold it in there and we put a screw on top of the heatsink, and there are all these three components working together and installed together. Put in place, nice and snug. Good, perfect. That's the other M.2 slot with no heatsink if you need more memory, but in this case we're using the AIC, the Aorus AIC RGB SSD, so we're good. Now the memory, the Flare X, the G.Skill Flare X, designed for AMD Ryzen processors. The RAM memory, the Extreme Performance DDR4 memory that has 3200 MHz, 16 cache latency, so it's one of the best, fastest memories that are out there for AMD processors, definitely for the 2600X. It has its own heatsink, heat dissipator, but no RGB lights. It's all business. The G.Skill Flare X AMD DDR4 memory, we take it out and we're gonna install it and show you how to do that. In this case, we got two sticks of 8 GB to get the most out of it and use the dual channel configuration, which means 2 sticks at a time. You can use 4 if you want, but they have to be on multiples of 2, so the processor makes better use of those dual channel and runs at better speeds. And the frequency in this or with this AMD on these AMD processors matters, because it will speed up the whole system. It might even double the speed in some cases. By using the dual channel, we have to interchange, so it has to be either slot 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. So we stick this one in slot number 1, and then the other one will not go in slot number 2 but rather in slot number 3, so it jumps 1. Some motherboards have them written the slots this way: 1, 3, 2, 4. So in that case you go slot 1 and 2 and then slot 3 and 4, but always has to skip one of the slots for the next DDR4 module to go in. So you have to skip one module. That's the dual channel configuration. See, we're skipping one, so slot 1, 2, 3. Either way you have to skip, and then you can stick the other 2 sticks of RAM if you have them in the other 2 slots available. Always try to do the dual channel configuration. There's a reason for that, and the reason is speed. And now we unbox the AMD Ryzen 2600X processor, the AMD Ryzen 5. Let's see what's in the inside. We just broke the sticker with the seal of authenticity. We have the manual. This manual will tell us how to install the processor and the provided cooling solution by AMD. It has okay, and nothing we didn't know before. And yes, it has pictures and everything, so it's pretty straightforward. And here is this protective plastic. We see a box with a cooling solution on the side, on a 2 plastic protective plastics for the Ryzen 2600X chip and its AMD sticker. Let's check that sticker real quick. It's coming out. Okay, we'll take it later. Let's open the plastic and take out the processor itself. And there's another box in here. Let's take out this box real quick. And that is the AMD cooling solution, air cooler with the huge radiator and an AMD plastic black fan with the AMD logo, the AMD branding on it. We need to take them out of the plastic, both of them. Let's check the cooling solution real quick before we get to the processor. And it has pre-applied thermal paste, a thermal substance on a circle like cooling pad. That will go on top of the processor later. This white circle, you don't want to touch it because you'll take out the thermal paste out of it, and you don't want to do that. Only touch it when you're ready to install it. Take out the protective plastic and be sure to install it on the processor itself. It has one fan connection for the CPU fan header on the motherboard. This one has no RGB or LED lights on them, but you can get the rate cooler. It's an optional part with lighting on the cooler itself. We opt out in this case because we have RGB everywhere anyways. But yeah, you have a nice circle of RGB next to the AMD logo, and this is the radiator. It's pretty big, pretty beefy. I'm pretty sure it's gonna cool down the processor just fine. If you intend to overclock, maybe go with liquid cooling, but this is enough. This is just right for this processor. Now let's take out the protective plastic case. Let's see what we got. There it is, the AMD Ryzen 5 processor. The X series, second generation Ryzen 2. Or Ryzen 5 rather, because of the second generation, but the Ryzen 5 series. And always find that triangle on the side. You see on the left corner we have that gold triangle, and find the gold triangle, or rather the triangle on the socket itself in the motherboard as well. That's the position, that's the orientation you want to put the CPU on. Both of those triangles have to match and be pointing outside of the socket. So match those two triangles together, take out the lever, put it up, and you need to drop the CPU, the processor. Don't push it, don't move it, just drop it. It has to fall in place like so. And once it's in place, you see it won't move left, right, up or down, and then push down the lever. Once you pull it up, insert the CPU, then you push it down and we hold in place the Ryzen processor on the CPU socket on the motherboard. Now we're ready to install the cooling solution on top of it. Now this is how the motherboard looks right now, and this is the end of part 1. Please check part 2 and or other videos on ZeroZeroX at ZeroZeroXVids.com, like the original music that's sounding right now and or original music videos for such music. So this was OsoX for ZeroZeroXVids.com. Don't forget to check the second part of this video, as well as other videos in the Dream Computer 3.0 series of videos to build the SENTRY 3 computer. Thank you for watching, and as always, peace.